Hello and welcome to the Bothell Buzz, a new show about what's going on in our community. Today we're going to talk about some exciting new things related to potential parks. With me, I have Councilmember James McNeil and John Keats, the Director of the Parks and Recreation Department. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here today. So we're going to talk about the Wayne Golf Course property and also about North Creek Forest. James, you've been involved for some time in an effort to protect the Wayne Golf Course property. What's important about this property for the Bothell community?
Well, I think it goes back to kind of a historical moment 30 years ago when a group of county council members decided to put forward a program called the CFT program, Conservation Futures Program. In an effort during that, they were actually able to raise funding to preserve part of the golf course away from development. And 30 years later, a grassroots organization called One Bothell stepped up and thus is in the process with Viterra, the city, and King County working to preserve the golf course in perpetuity for our community forever. So a very important piece of how we can move things forward by working together.
Great, thanks. So, John, earlier this year, Forterra, a nonprofit that John mentioned, bought the Wayne Golf Course property. What was the significance of that purchase?
Well, the main significance is by them buying and holding, it precludes it from being developed for 3 years. So it gives the city 3 years to fundraise with our partners and purchase the golf course from Forterra. So, and the golf course obviously has the potential to be the centerpiece park facility in Bothell. It just is an awesome property. So the big thing is it gives the city the opportunity now to make the purchase from Forterra.
Okay, great. So at this point, the city doesn't own the land, but we're taking steps to buy it. Is that right? What steps are we taking?
Yeah, correct. We're working with One Bothell, Forterra in King County. And collectively, what we've been doing is working jointly to submit a number of grant requests to the county, to the state, what have you. And so that process is ongoing. We have been successful with some grant funding for both the front nine and the back nine. We're waiting for word on a couple more grants, which we should know after the legislative session in 2017. So bit by bit, every time we get another grant, it's just a little bit more money in the coffers for the acquisition, and you know, we knew it was going to take some time and some effort, but slowly and surely we're getting there.
Okay, great. Well, I had a question about the visioning process, and I'm going to actually ask you both this question. The city has begun a visioning process for the golf course, and I'm just wondering, maybe, James, I'll start with you, if you can talk a little bit about how that went and what the result of that visioning process was.
Fabulous. The process and having all of the partners together in one room, discussing it, laying it out, listening to the community, having the input. One of the processes that was implemented was a push-button voting mechanism to try to come up with who in the community wanted what. But I would say just the process within itself, and going through that process and understanding it and how we can engage with our community, that was an important element of it, because at the end, it's about preserving the golf course, but it's also about understanding what the community wants the golf course to be, what type of park they want it to be. And it has those elements of the habitat, the fish and wildlife, but it also has an element where the community can gather. So as John said, making that part of our park system is fabulous, and being part of that process and engagement was a fun experience. So.
Great. So John, do you have anything to add about like what the results were of that visioning process?
Well, first thing I'd say is I think the visiting process showed that the property has enormous potential. From conservation on one side to even active use recreation on another, you know, finding a balance there. I mean, there was lots of great ideas. I guess one thing that really excites me is it has the potential to be a real focal point for trails. I mean, it's right on the Burt Gilman Trail, it's right on the Tolt Pipeline Trail. There's potential for walking paths and trails throughout the property. You got the Sammamish River meandering through the property as well. So. Collectively, when you looked at all the suggestions and everything from the visioning participants, it just showed you that this could really be a special park facility in the future. So.
Oh, that's great. So, James, the council recently worked on some council goals for the next couple of years, and the Wayne Golf Course purchase and plan is one of those goals. So, what are the next steps for the Wayne Golf Course property?
I think finalizing the acquisition is going to be the biggest goal for the city, and that is we only have the 3 years to pay Forterra off. So we want to make sure that we have the players out working, making sure that we're looking at all funding options available to us. And I think that I'm hopeful that and optimistic that we will have the resources available to us in that time frame. But it is having community engagement and the community involved in that process of purchasing it was very vital to even raising the funds that we've so far raised. But there is some additional funding dollars we need to raise, and we need to make sure that we're helpful to John and staff to get us there and the partners.
Great. So, John, do you have anything to add to that? How can the community get involved in this effort to buy the property?
Well, our community engagement process is something that's ongoing, so we like to hear from anybody at any time, about the golf course. And the funding process is also ongoing, so I think James covered it very well, but there's a number of things that we'll have to look at through the purchase process. And one thing, the county is interested in possibly buying a conservation easement on the back nine, which we'll have to sort out. The grant money is, like I said, it's still a little bit of an unknown, but yeah, we have the 3-year time window to get it done, and that's what we're all striving for.
Great. And so for people that aren't as familiar, how much is the golf course property worth approximately, and how much have we raised?
Well, Forterra bought the property for $10,125,000 in 2 separate transactions. We just had an appraisal done, and it's worth a little bit more now. There's been some market value attached to that. So that's, by the time it's all said and done, with interest for Forterra on holding the property and project management, holding costs for them, the eventual purchase price could be upwards of about $11 million, I think.
And how much in grant funding do we have so far?
We have right about $4 million committed right now.
Okay. Well, great. This is pretty exciting to see that there's a lot of progress going towards purchasing the Wayne Golf Course. James, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would just add that this shows the power of a community that stands together. The Wayne Golf Course is not the only park or open space or recreational space that the citizens have talked about, the community's talked about throughout Bothell. We have a north end need for park systems, and we need to all work together to ensure that the north end of our city gets those parks. So I think that what we're seeing is kind of an uprising, a grassroots organization throughout our city with some of the other things that we've already preserved, like North Creek. I think this stands to say that we can do it when we work together. And it takes all members of our community to do this. That's the businesses, that's the environmental groups, the development groups. We all just need to focus and work together, and we can build that system. As we grow our city, we can ensure that we have those places preserved for the rest of in perpetuity. So.
Great. Well, this is exciting development. Thank you so much, both of you, James and John, for taking your time this morning. And there's also some exciting news related to the North Creek Forest, as we'll see in this next segment.
Latest news for North Creek Forest is the last 3 parcels of the entire forest have been acquired. It's about 22 acres. That brings the total to 64 acres, which will now be the total amount of the forest. With the land acquisition costs, appraisals, closing costs, everything, it could be upwards of $2.7 million by the time we're all said and done. The money we obtained to purchase the property came from actually 4 sources. The Recreation and Conservation Office in Olympia provided 2 grants, one from the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which is federal funds, and then the Washington Wildlife and Recreation Program through their local parks category. It was another source. Those two sources combined were $1.5 million. And then a third source was the King County Conservation's Futures Program, which was about $1.2 million. And I should mention that for the other Snohomish County portions of the property, Snohomish County Conservation Futures Program monies were used. So in all, you have all those sources. And then we also had $53,000 donated from a group, a nonprofit, Save Our Woods. So the last three acquisitions are obviously the key to the whole program, and now we can move on to another phase, which is actually the fun phase, is the master planning and the public use phase in the future.
It's been many years of work to get to this point. Over a decade ago, a woman in our neighborhood, Sandy Clement, roused a bunch of us and said that this forest, this 100-year-old gem, was going to be developed. We started raising concern and awareness and money. We went to the City Council in May of 2010 and asked them to consider saving this forest, purchasing it from the private landowners. They said there's no money to do that, but you, the citizen groups, should do it. So we took them at their word. Both Sandy's group, HOW, and our group, which we formed to be a nonprofit called Friends of North Creek Forest, realized we had to do some major things to make this happen. Two things really. We had to have a vision for it, which was clear. I mean, we want the kids of the next generation to value a forest ecosystem, and we needed full community support. To attract the kind of grant money that we needed, millions of dollars to purchase this forest, we needed to show that we had community support and partnerships. So we got them from the University of Washington and Cascadia, local schools, the YMCA, Woodinville Rotary. We talked to our legislatures who got us a $200,000 grant. We just spread the word everywhere we could for the last 6 years, and we've got tremendous community support. It's very exciting.
When we started, our job was to try to advocate to save it. This land down here, the streams and wetlands, go into North Creek, which goes into Lake Washington. The salmon that goes down there need the cool water. This area, the streams and wetlands, provide the cool area. Without this providing it, the salmon runs would not be able to go on. The water would be too warm, and they need cool, fresh water. Help Our Woods has continued their role as going around talking about grants, getting grants, and along with the other group, the grants were put together from both groups, which got us to this point, as well as HOW has raised approximately $54,000 that we donated to the purchase of the last parcel.
So the future, after we clean up some debris and we got a house we got to demolish and a few other things on the site, the next phase we'll go into, we'll probably be doing a park master plan, at which time we'll be engaging with the public to kind of figure out what the future of this property is going to look like. So that will involve working with our Parks and Recreation Board and looking at public access and amenities such as maybe trails and interpretive type of things, environmental education. It'll just give us a footprint for how the property will be used going into the future. So, would like to thank the Friends of North Creek Forest for working with the city to make this acquisition possible, and Help Our Woods for a nice donation, which was a big deal in the funding mix. All our funding agencies at the state and county level, and we just look forward to the next phase, which is the master planning, and probably some sort of ribbon cutting in the future where we can celebrate the final acquisition of all the property, which is the 64 acres.
As we heard, it takes a lot of time and effort by both volunteers and the city to raise money to buy open space and future parkland. John, I understand that you're working on a new way to raise money for parks?
Yes, Barbara, have been for some time involved in a process to create a nonprofit Parks and Recreation Foundation in Bothell, and we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel for that.
Great. I understand that the city recently found out that the foundation received its 501c3 designation from the IRS, and what's the significance of that?
Yeah, we heard this week, as a matter of fact, and the significance of that is it really opens up another door for us in terms of fundraising. And to give you a couple of examples is, number one is many donors or potential donors only want to give money to a nonprofit, a 501c3. So many times they would not give money to or property or anything to the city, but they will give it to a nonprofit. So that opens up that door. And then many funders, whether it's another foundation or a granting agency, will only give grants to a 501c3. And we just, matter of fact, did a grant not too long ago to a business, and I had to partner with another foundation in town because we didn't have our nonprofit yet. So in the future, we'll be able to do those just on our own now. So it really opens up some doors.
Great. So what are the next steps related to the foundation?
Well, the next steps are probably the hardest steps, and that's we have to recruit some members to serve on the board of directors. So that involves getting out in the community and seeing what parks and recreation advocates there are out there. And you know, it's really a big ask because serving on a nonprofit board does involve commitment. But ultimately, what we'd like to see is, you know, the foundation as a standalone entity working to benefit Parks and Recreation in Bothell, and the city Parks and Recreation Department would just work in cooperation with that foundation. So, but
Great.
we need the board members to really take it to the next level.
So if there's some people watching who are really passionate about parks and want to get involved, what can they do?
If they're interested at all in the foundation, I would encourage them to contact me directly, and I'd be happy to talk to anybody, meet with anybody. I have a sample job description, for example, that can give folks an idea of what is involved in being on the board, and you know, an application form as well. And yeah, we'll be more than willing to talk to anybody and channel their enthusiasm into this foundation.
Super. Well, great. Anything else you'd like to add about the foundation?
It's going to, I really think in the end, it's going to take some time to establish, but you know, I've seen other communities where foundations have come in and just done wonderful things in the community in terms of garnering donations, advocacy, raising money, and you know, just giving the City Parks and Recreation Department another tool in the toolbox, if you will, for fundraising and you know, delivering parks and recreation services and special events and you know, all those things.
Great. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
For more information on any of these topics, go to our city website. And thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Bothell Buzz. We'll see you next time.